And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Wednesday, January 8th. I'm Josh Engleman here to break down an 8-game slate. So yesterday, January 7th, 7 games. Today, January 8th, 8 games. I enjoy that symmetry. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman and give a big hearty thumbs down to the Denver Nuggets. Couldn't have played that one much better yesterday, guys. Got me nowhere. One of the better edge slates of the day, or of the year, rather. One of the better edges of the year, and it was all for naught. And that, my friends, is frustrating. You were able to get to heavy amounts of the Denver Nuggets yesterday. You played it correct. And yet you were not rewarded. And that happens. That happens from time to time. But that is what we got yesterday, which is kind of a bummer. Because we hit the goods, man. We hit the goods. Whether that was Dario Saric, whether that was Peyton Watson, whether that was Russ, Jamal Murray, Julian Strawther. We had lots of value to get to yesterday. And if you played your cards right and you had it for most of the night, you were sitting pretty until the games happened. At which point, you were doomed. Saric, awful. Peyton Watson, great. If you got Peyton Watson right, that was good. Russ was passable. Murray, terrible. Christian Brown, terrible. It was a tough one. Very annoying. Shout out to, let's see, Steve Buzzard, number 1 sim ROI for yesterday. Myself, Greg, lots of Stokastic peeps at the top of the heap in sim ROI that were able to get out in front and make those changes. Couldn't get rewarded. Very frustrating, man. You want to get it on those days, but that is not how it worked out yesterday. So maybe we need it today. Maybe that's what could help us out. How about Zion? Yeah, I guess. He's healthy. That's helpful. He was able to play a game. That's always nice. We'll see. Game number 7 of the year for Zion. But what a day, man. What a day. No idea what Messiah Dominguez is talking about, but I'm going to just go ahead and ignore it. Keep this one moving. Let's break down some basketball, shall we? 7 games on the docket today. And we're starting off with a gem. Oklahoma City Thunder, 3.5-point dogs in Cleveland, 229 total. Yeah, Messiah, no, he isn't. But he could be. Kareem, what minutes restriction were you worried about? For sure. Yeah, I'm going to just ignore this. This is going to drive me insane. We get Thunder Cavs today, man. We've been blessed with pretty awesome basketball for these past couple days with these different combinations of Thunder and Celtics, and now today Thunder and Cavs. We're getting the goods, man. Yeah, Reed Shepherd went bonkers yesterday in the G League, which is fun to see. It's so exciting to have this game, though. And for OKC, they are mildly shorthanded. no Caruso, no AJ Mitchell. So they are slight dogs here. But we're getting quite a bit of ownership coming into OKC as of right now. They are the second most owned team, which is kind of interesting. We're getting just shy of 20% ownership into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're getting around 20% ownership coming into Lou Dort. We're getting around 15% ownership to Aaron Wiggins. And we're getting just shy of 15 for Cason Wallace and for Isaiah Hartenstein. That's a lot of ownership here for the Thunder in a spot that, obviously Cleveland, good defense. Pace is average. Honestly, basically every game is pretty similar today for pace, save for the Bulls and the Pacers. Now, if I'm looking at OKC, if we're looking at OKC, Shai is the name that I want for sure. 10,500. If there's ever going to be a game where we're going to consolidate minutes to starters, this is the kind of game that would be. I've got Shai with a 27% chance of 63 fantasy points. That is what we're looking for out of him today at 10-5. But we got to remember, we do have Wemby today. We might have Jokic today. We don't know that for sure as of yet. We don't have Joel Embiid or Paul George. And we do have Milwaukee here, so we have Giannis. So all of the pay-ups are on this slate, and we're still getting this kind of love, at least to start the day, on Shai. That's interesting to me, especially with San Antonio and Milwaukee being the final game. What we do with the ownership for Oklahoma City is going to be very important. Now, Dort is pulling a ton of ownership here at 20% for an 8-game slate, that is. But he's 4K, he's shooting guard, small forward. He's a crazy good value right now. Is it a little higher than I want it to be? Yeah. But he only needs 30 fantasy points at this salary. And that, to me, is pretty attainable. So the value for Dort is amazing. He would be my second favorite option. After that, it gets really murky. I don't really have anything separating Jalen Williams, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Cason Wallace from each other. Obviously, J-Dub, 8,300, power forward only, not getting as much ownership. I don't think that he should, but he should be around 10. I'm more than happy to get to Isaiah Hartenstein. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play a couple extra minutes in a spot like this. So I think he's well within his range at like 10 to 15% owned. Cason Wallace is 3,700, but again, no AJ Mitchell, no Caruso. Wallace is going to play 30 minutes here. It would be pretty surprising if he didn't. Isaiah Joe would have to shoot the lights out for Cason Wallace to not have a ton of ownership here. And then Aaron Wiggins. With those two guys out, you expect him to fall into extra playing time. He's 3,200. He's small forward, power forward eligible. He's not a bad point per minute guy. 0.85 fantasy points per minute. So Wiggins is 15% owned. He's the third highest owned guy for the Thunder. For the most part, I agree with it. It's a good spot to get value. It's going to... someone like Aaron Wiggins is really going to help you pay up for your Shais, your Jokic's, your Wemby's, your Giannis's. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. It's a lot of good quality options for OKC. I mean, I'm not shocked to see them be the second most owned team right now. I mean, Philly is pulling all of the ownership, and we'll get to that in a bit. No Embiid, no Paul George is creating a massive spot. Oh, by the way, they play the Wizards. So getting to Philly is really easy, but I really wish this game was starting at a different time. I'd feel a lot better about it. But any one of those starters for OKC look really good. Yeah, Lord King Guru, I don't agree with you here. Other than the timing, this spot is good. I have no problem getting to OKC. Good defense only matters if pricing's a problem. Aren't Cavs the better play? Not even close. Not even remotely close. Highest owned guy for the Cavs at this moment is 9% ownership to Evan Mobley. So they don't have a single player in double digits on the Cleveland side. Donovan Mitchell did get to 12 on FanDuel, but it's single digits across the board. 9 for Mobley, 8 for Mitchell, 2 for Garland, 1 for Jared Allen. We don't know the status of Sam Merrill yet, but that won't really change anything. Look, you want to play Mobley or Mitchell or Garland? I would argue Darius Garland is a hair under-owned as a $7,300 point guard. But we're talking about, I think he should be like 5, not 2. I don't see much here for Cleveland. Now, if this is a day where we get 35 minutes out of all the starters, then yeah, they're going to look a little bit better. But we don't seem to get that ever. If I'm ranking these guys, it's Mobley, Mitchell, Garland. And then I probably am not getting to anything else from Cleveland. Yeah, Steven, LeVert looks fine at 4,100 as a value option. I assume by the end of today, we have way better options than that. I mean, Philly alone is going to be able to create a lot of that. But yeah, he looks solid. It doesn't take much for him to get a couple extra minutes. But I don't think that he's going to look anything other than like a real lottery ticket today. But yeah, Cleveland's a bit more of a pace down spot for Cleveland than it is for OKC. S&P, I mean, I think, I agree with where you're going, but I think it might be more of a Jalen Williams day than a Kenrich day. That's where it gets tricky. Because I think they can go either direction. Jermaine, why is the timing bad? Because you lock in your players at 7 o'clock, and we have 7:30 games, an 8 o'clock game, a 9 o'clock game, and a 9:30 game. You can't swap guys that are already locked. So if we're going to be seeing a lot of potential ownership to Oklahoma City, you got to make some decisions of, are you willing to give up flexibility to get to those plays? And it's a push and pull. So, OKC looks, if OKC were the 9:30 start, they'd look even better than they do right now, because you could feel comfortable about having them, and you'd feel comfortable about making your swaps throughout the night as news comes in. Now, if you lock that in at 7, you're locking in a decent chunk of your lineups. I mean, 90% ownership out of 800. Let's just say you match the field on OKC. That's 11% of your lineup spots locked in at 7 o'clock. That's ignoring the rest of these teams. So that's where we stand for OKC Cleveland. Here's my recommendation. Just watch the game. Just watch the whole game. This is a potential finals preview. It would surprise me, but this is a potential finals preview. And I'm excited to see it. I love good basketball, and this is as good a basketball as we can get during the week. Just out of curiosity, what is the odds of this matchup? This is the second most likely matchup in the FanDuel odds at 12-1. Celtics Thunder is at plus 340. This is the second most likely outcome at 12-1. That's fun. That's fun. God, I'm excited for the playoffs. But yeah, for Cleveland, there's really not a lot here. I would argue their main guys are a hair under-owned, but not by anything crazy. Go to game 2. Ugh, I'm tired of this team too. Chicago Bulls. 5.5 point dogs in Indy. The redeeming quality of this game is that it has a 103 pace. That's 3 possessions faster than any other game here. And it's got a 241 total. That is 11 points higher than any other game on this slate. Now for Chicago, no Torrey Craig, no Io DeSumo. For the Pacers, We have a Q tag on Tyrese Halliburton, and obviously still no Aaron Nesmith. So, as we look at this one, King, who do they want in the finals then? Riddle me this. Well, Boston, Dallas? I think they'll be plenty happy if OKC and Cleveland both make the finals as 68 win teams in the regular season. Well, yeah, of course they want the Lakers to do it, but we might want to talk about realistic options. So the Bulls essentially have everybody except for Dosunmu. The same rotation we've had for a while now. None of these guys look all that good, which is kind of a shame. We're getting 8% ownership to Patrick Williams. We're getting 8% ownership to Josh Giddey. The small market thing is not the same as what it used to be. We all have the internet now. We all have League Pass now. There's no such thing as small market in the same way that it used to be, at least. I'm not denying that it's a thing, but it's less extreme than it ever was before. That's for sure. Look, it's all about the quality of the team, right? Because nobody in the world was like, they don't want the Cleveland Cavaliers in the finals when LeBron did it. No one's saying that. It doesn't matter what the market is. It matters what the team is. Now, the confluence of those two things will help. If you get the Lakers in the finals with LeBron James, that's the tip of the spear. But nobody gave a shit that the Cleveland Cavaliers were in the finals for 4 straight years when LeBron was on the team. I agree that's different. But this could be the first year of OKC being in the finals for 4 straight years. They're that good. We just don't know it yet. Yeah, Brandon, completely agree there. The team doesn't really matter as much any longer. Anyway, Chicago, they're not all that interesting. Any one of the starters are all kind of the same. None of them are getting any real ownership. Now, I guess we should talk about what these guys look like on FanDuel. Patrick Williams and Josh Giddey are both 25% owned. Any one of these Bulls guys, Levine, Vooch, White, Williams, Giddey, sure. Even a couple percentage points Alonzo's fine. I don't know how you look at the Bulls and really want to get to anybody here. These prices have stabilized now. Dosunmu's been out for long enough that these guys are all where you're supposed to be at. So I can't really separate them. I think Patrick Williams would be my preferred guy, but that's barely. Oh, I'm freezing, eh? Well, that's not fun. Weird. Oh, it's doing it again. Let me take a look at some stuff here, guys. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I dropped some frames there. I mean, look, hopefully I'm not freezing for this explanation. Where was the question? Anthony Hunt wanted to know if Levine goes for 60 again. Jason Farnsworth said he can get you 60 on any night. I mean, 50 is hard. I don't even know why we're even talking about 60 like that's a thing you need. He's got a 12% chance of scoring 51. His chances of going for 60 are once a year. It's going to happen again. I'm quite confident there, but... And for whoever asked me who I think the MVP is right now, it is SGA for me. If it were Jokic, I wouldn't mind. I think those are the only two options. I lean SGA right now. It'll probably be Jokic by the end of the year for me. But I do lean SGA right now. Let's get away from the Bulls. Go to Indy. So this one has the opportunity to look pretty wild because Tyrese Halliburton is questionable. And if Halliburton ends up out, we are going to be looking at this game quite different. Andrew Nembhard will look very different. Mathurin, Siakam, TJ McConnell, Ben Shepherd. A lot of this is going to look different. 10% ownership right now to Nembhard. 10% ownership to Turner. 10% to Siakam. 5%-ish to Halliburton and Mathurin. It's a great spot. They're gaining 3 possessions over their average. I think every starter looks the same. 10% optimal Halliburton, 11 Mathurin, 11 Turner, 11 Nembhard, 13 Siakam. Now the mic's cutting in and out? What the fuck? See what we could do here. Yeah, I figured. I'm waiting for the real people in chat to let me know. Getting a lot of untrustworthy messages. Okay. So Indy. I'm willing to give 10% ownership to any one of the starters. But what we really need is the news on Halliburton. Because Indy can go from mostly uninteresting to very interesting if Halliburton is out. I think Siakam looks the best of anybody on the Pacers. But if Halliburton ends up out, Nembhard is going to become that guy. Siakam will look better. Mathurin will look a lot better. And then $3,800 TJ McConnell will become a problem. So we need that news. We need that news. But any one of the starters, if Halliburton is in, they all look the same. Now we're getting to the bell of the ball. Washington Wizards, 11-point dogs in Philly, 219 total. Now the Wizards, I don't know what these guys are going to be today. Kuzma got hurt yesterday during the game. I left him out. I have no idea if Malcolm Brogdon can play today. I have no idea if Jordan Poole can play today. Right now, there's no ownership projected to Washington. They're on a back-to-back. We need their injury report. If they don't have Poole and they don't have Kuzma and they don't have Brogdon, we're going to have some value here somewhere. Whether that's Bob Carrington, whether that's Keyshawn George, Kispert, Champagne, we're going to have something here. But it's not even... We have no idea what Washington is going to look like. We're going to need the injury report. We will know this information at 1:30. What we really need to talk about is the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers are without Joel Embiid. He's out, left foot sprain. Paul George, out. Kyle Lowry, out. KJ Martin, out. Jared McCain, out. And finally, Andre Drummond, questionable. That is giving us 90% ownership to Tyrese Maxey, 60% ownership to Kelly Oubre, 60% ownership to Gershon Yabusele, and 40% ownership to Caleb Martin. All four of those guys do look awesome. Tyrese Maxey looks exceptional. He's got a 40% chance of scoring 51 fantasy points. Wow. And that's all you need. So, completely agree with all of that ownership. I have no problem getting to all of Philly at the top end. It's a pace-up spot against the worst team in the league. I'm cool with all of it. If Drummond ends up out, even more of this will look good. We could legitimately play Bona in this spot if we need to. But right now, I don't know how you get away from those first four guys from Philly. I don't know why I read off the FanDuel ownership. 80 to Maxey, 50 to Oubre, 60 to Yabusele, 30 to Martin, 20-ish to Andre Drummond. You got to get all of these dudes. Drummond is up in the air. Maxey, Oubre, Yabu? Yes. Caleb Martin? Yes. Now, is Caleb Martin a great per minute dude? No. Does it matter in this spot? Also no. So, it's all kind of tricky here. I'm not confident in Drummond. And if he's not there, flat 3K Adam Bona is a thing, I think, because they're just so low on bodies. But go ahead and get yourself all of the Tyrese Maxey you can find. Get yourself Kelly Oubre. Get yourself Yabu. What a wild day, man. Philly's the gem. I mean, that's what happens when you play the Wizards. That's what happens when you play the Washington Wizards, who are, on the year, they are 30th in offensive rating. Oddly enough, not the worst defense, only 28th. It's just absolutely terrible. It's crazy to think about this. There is no Joel Embiid and no Paul George for the Philadelphia 76ers. Along with everybody else I mentioned, Lowry, Martin, McCain, potentially Drummond. They're still double-digit favorites in Washington. Now, Washington obviously has their own guys out, but that's how bad Washington is. So we need the news on the Wizards side. They could look like better value. We do need the Drummond news. But if you're going to one team today, it is very clearly the Philadelphia 76ers. Next up, Detroit Pistons. 8-point favorites in Brooklyn, 212 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate. This is the slowest paced matchup on today's slate. And the only guy getting any love at all on DraftKings is Cade Cunningham at 9,800, currently projected for 30% ownership. Now, I think that's a little high. I would say, something in that 20 to 25 range is where I expect that to end up. But it's not like he doesn't look good. Brooklyn doesn't exactly have what it takes here. They're running out of talent. Now, it is a pace down spot. I don't love this matchup. I'd be willing to take Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. in GPPs. But Cade is the prize. But if he's 30% owned, he's a little over-owned as far as I'm concerned. Well, fizzy facts, that's not happening. And that second one would be quite surprising, but at least a little bit more realistic. The first one literally can't happen. I feel pretty comfortable in saying that. The Minnesota one would be wild. But there's a 0% chance that the Lakers will play the Celtics in the finals. Lakers are going to have to get themselves out of the play-in before they do anything like that. I am not confident in the Lakers' long-term outlook. But I will confidently say they have a 0% chance of making the finals. All right, let's go to Brooklyn. Now, I think we're all pretty well sick of the Brooklyn Nets. I know I am. No Bojan Bogdanovic, no Cam Johnson, no Max Lewis, no Melton, no D'Angelo Russell with a right shin contusion, no Cam Thomas, no Trendon Watford, and Ben Simmons is questionable for today. Right now, there is no ownership coming into Brooklyn. 7% to Noah Clowney is the most on DraftKings. And I don't even disagree with it. Now, if Ben Simmons ends up out, they really just don't have enough bodies, and we're going to end up getting Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, Day'Ron Sharpe, Zaire Williams. These guys will show up a little bit more if Ben Simmons is out. Oh, Fizzy, I mean, you won your last two futures? Yeah, well, then the Lakers are clearly going to make the finals. Of course. Of course. No reason to suspect that the 18th best team in the league won't be waltzing to the finals. Shake Milton carrying him there. And the corpse of LeBron James. I say corpse. I don't mean that as much as I mean it, but I mean, he's not himself anymore. I don't know if Ben Simmons is going to play in this game today, but if he doesn't, we're going to end up paying attention to Brooklyn in ways that we really don't want to. And the problem here for Brooklyn is that they all suck and they all look the same. Like, Day'Ron Sharpe is awesome per minute. Nick Claxton's good per minute. Keon Johnson, 0.9. Jalen Wilson, 0.75. Tyrese Martin, 0.9. Noah Clowney, 0.85. Zaire, 0.9. Reese Beekman, 0.7. Owoma, 0.7. This Brooklyn team is dreadful. They got to get Cam Johnson healthy so they could trade his ass. Oh, Lord King Guru, I thought you were Fizzy Facts. I was like, I will take that bet. Name the stakes, I'm in. S&P, I agree. He's been playing a lot better as of late. But it ain't him anymore. It's kind of sad. I mean, look, what really helped him, honestly, was taking that back-to-back days off for left foot soreness and going and getting those child stem cells injected into his brain. Gotta love those days. Let's get away from this Brooklyn team. Keep your eye on that Ben Simmons news. The Toronto Raptors are 12-point dogs in New York. 230 total for the Raps. Not much here to worry about. Mobo's with the G League team, so is Battle. 5% ownership to Jake Puddle. 2% ownership to Emmanuel Quickly. No ownership to anybody else. The Toronto Raptors are the least owned team on DraftKings today. I think that Quickly is a hair underowned. I think Scotty Barnes is a hair underowned. I would rather not play these guys. It's a pace down spot. They're not very good. They can't look much worse. Israel, no one said that. No one talked about MJ in that manner because he retired 4 times before LeBron got to 40. Nobody's ever done what he's doing. Quickly revenge. We got Quickly revenge. We got Barrett revenge. We've got... What else do we got? OG Anunoby revenge. There's lots of revenge going on in this one. Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's coming. What is the Emmanuel Quickly points prop, and how much over the field am I on that number? 16 and a half. I got 19 and a half. Yeah, I'm a much bigger believer in his usage rate. We'll see how that shakes out. Ultimately, Toronto's the worst team on the slate, and I really don't think you guys should be playing them. Now, for the Knicks, we might get that fun Jericho Sims value again. I think everybody's clamoring for that one. We don't know the status of Towns. He's questionable. We don't know the status yet of Miles McBride, who's questionable. We haven't seen McBride for a while. Yeah. News God, less ownership on Toronto right now than the Wizards. We're getting 10% ownership to Josh Hart. We're getting a little over 10 to Towns. And we're getting low single digits to Brunson, Anunoby, and Bridges. Anywhere in that 10% ownership range for any one of those five main guys works for me. Now, if Towns is out, all four of those starters are going to look better. You would want to play a little bit more of Precious. They'll probably screw around and do some nonsense with Jericho Sims, who's terrible. So just focus on Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, and Brunson today. And if Karl Anthony Towns happens to be in, don't be afraid to play him, because he will look good here. But it's starters or bust here for the Knicks. Starters or bust. There's not really any path to anything else, and nobody, I think, immediately jumps out. All right. Game 6. Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers are 2-point favorites in New Orleans, 226 total. Now, this one's a little weird. Jeremy Grant, still out. Denny Avdia, questionable. Donovan Clingan, questionable. We're getting 25% ownership to DeAndre Ayton. We're getting 15 to Shaedon Sharpe. And we're just shy of 10 on Anthony Simons and Toumani Camara. Denny's at 4. Ricky, the best player 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 24 months ago, 36 months ago. The answer to all of these questions is Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic has been the best player in basketball for years. Multiple years. Probably 4. Could be 5. And there's really no way to say that it's not. There's not really any argument. You want to tell me it was Giannis 4 years ago? Okay, I could see it, I guess. But, and that's not to say that I don't love Shea, but the only answer to who the best player on the planet has been is Nikola Jokic. So we need that Denny news. I don't think the Clingan news matters too much. If he's out, we're just going to get Time Lord as the backup center, I would imagine. I like Ayton, though. I like this whole starting 5. I have them all 11 to 15% optimal. I think Anthony Simons is under-owned. I think Toumani Camara is under-owned. I think Denny Avdia, if he's playing, is under-owned. I think Shaedon Sharpe is properly owned at 15%. And I think DeAndre Ayton is pretty well properly owned at 25%. I really like the starting 5 for Portland here. Now, if Denny happens to be out, we'll probably like these guys even more. And I'm guessing we would probably create value on either Delano Banton or Chris Murray. But these guys look good here. These guys look really good here. Giannis is boring? Oh, Mitchell, that is so sad to think about. If you find Giannis boring, how do you even watch the NBA? That is heartbreaking. Yeah, S&P, he is. But like if we're giving him 14 minutes or something, it's kind of gross. Tatum, SGA, and Giannis are better than Jokic. Well, Knights Gaming Studio is not good at this. That's for sure. All right. If you're rostering somebody from Portland, I think this is an interesting question. Who is your preferred rostered guy for Portland today? Simons, Kamara, Sharp, Avdia, Ayton. I think. I think it's Shaedon Sharp for me. I think I would rank it Sharp, Ayton, Simons, Kamara, Avdia. I think that's my rank on Portland. Simons, Sharp, Ayton. Steven Leibowitz in on Sharp. Arguing best player, kind of a waste of time. I grew up watching Wilt, Kareem, Dr. J. I still think those guys were the best. Yeah, I mean, like, I like to argue resumes more than anything else. But, like, I grew up watching LeBron James. I'm going to be 40 years old in a month. I grew up for all of the LeBron era, and I was in my driveway shooting like I was Michael Jordan for years. I just think LeBron had a better career. Jordan was dope. Jokic couldn't beat any of those players heads up. You're good at pressing buttons on a website. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just let me know whenever these guys are all playing their big one-on-one tournament. Not sure when that's going to be. Something that definitely never happens. Weird. It's just how do people get through the day? I'll never understand it. Like, life is so much harder than these simple things. That's just wild. It's wild. It's so wild. I don't know how we get here. By the way, Nikola Jokic would eviscerate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a one-on-one basketball game. Let's be very clear here. Shai would have to never miss because he is not going to be able to stop Jokic. Jokic weighs like 150 pounds more than him. You want to tell me that Giannis and who was the other name on that list? I already forgot because it was so dumb. You want to tell me that Tatum and Giannis are going to beat Jokic one-on-one? Sure. You know who's not going to do it? Shai. Okay. Well, it's been fun talking to you, Knights Gaming Studio. I'm going to go ahead and continue this one so I don't hurt my brain anymore. The New Orleans Pelicans are an interesting team today because they're on a back-to-back and we don't totally know who's playing for them today. I think we can safely assume Zion Williamson is not playing the back-to-back. I don't imagine that Trey Murphy is playing today. We don't know the status of Jose Alvarado. And literally anything else could happen here. What we need to talk about, and the ownership here could be right, could be wrong, we don't know. It's going to depend on what's available here. Jeremiah Robinson Earl played 20 minutes yesterday. He is the flat 3K, power forward center eligible. And there's enough guys missing here that Jeremiah Robinson Earl is going to be a relatively big value if these injuries break the right way. So I want to get that out there again. Jeremiah Robinson Earl might be one of the most interesting plays of the day. I know that's not a fun thing to hear, but unfortunately for us right now, it is a true statement. It is a true statement. We need the news. We need to know if Alvarado's playing back-to-backs, Zion, if Trey Murphy's back, if anybody else is missing this. But we got to keep our eye on JRE. Brandon Boston getting a little bit of love, 3,400, shooting guard, small forward. He will look pretty good as a value option depending on how this news shakes out. But for right now, it's hard to talk about the Pelicans. We need their injury report. But when we get that, we might be very focused on the New Orleans Pelicans. Yeah, Israel, that's clearly not true. We don't have to speak in hyperbole and like just crazy nonsense. That's clearly not true. You're around here long enough to know it. But that's an insane take. 2 games to go here, folks. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Clippers. 2.5-point favorites in Denver. Speak of the devil. 227 total. So for the Clips, not much to rein in here. They're healthy now. Everybody that could be available for the Clippers that they would play is available. And that makes it really difficult for the Clippers in terms of rostering them in DFS. 7% ownership to Harden, 7% ownership to Norm Powell, 6% ownership to Zoo. Those are right, I guess. There's not a single priority here from the Clippers. I don't know how we get there. Kawhi is still pretty expensive for what we would expect out of him. And now he takes and Terrence Mann is back. We just take a bite out of everybody. This, to me, the Clippers are like the hardest team to get to. Because like Washington could look bad, Toronto could look bad, but at least they're going to consolidate minutes to certain people. The Clippers are going to play Harden, Powell, and Zubats just over 30 minutes, and then everybody else is going to play like 20. Nick, please tell me please tell me you're just trying to wind me up with that nonsense. I can't take it. I can't take it. That's insane. That's truly insane. I don't even think Sabonis would make a 64-man bracket if you wanted to do that tournament. What are we talking about here? I feel like Luka is the answer to who wins a one-on-one tournament, but I'd be willing to have a conversation about all the really good guys. But Sabonis would not be in the list. Yeah, maybe Arvydas. If you're telling me that it's Arvydas Sabonis in the one-on-one tournament, I will have a lot better chance of agreeing there. All right, so for the Nugs, I don't know what to do here. We obviously are all waiting on the same information. Paul, congratulations. We don't know if Nikola Jokic is playing today. Yeah, John, I assume that the answer is Giannis as well. We got to remember, though, Luka's bigger than it seems. The shot would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, Giannis would be my likely... Giannis, I think, would be the favorite in that tournament. There's nothing to say about Denver at all. If Jokic plays, any one of the starters look fine. Murray, Jokic, Porter, Brown, Westbrook. They're like 10%ers. If Jokic is out, we're doing what we did yesterday. I'm playing a shit ton of Murray, a shit ton of Porter, a shit ton of Brown, a shit ton of Westbrook, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, and Dario Saric. Playing them all. But we need the status. We don't know. He was sick yesterday. Does he feel good today? Who the hell knows? Do I expect him to go through a shoot-around today if they have one? No matter what. Now, if we see that he does, he's in. But this all comes down to whether or not Nikola Jokic is playing today. And we don't know that shit right now. Kawhi 5 years ago would be really good. Israel, you are naming people whose opinion I don't respect in any way about basketball. I respect zero of what Shaq has to say. I respect zero what Charles Barkley has to say. I respect zero what Kenny Smith has to say. Scottie Pippen is next level crazy at this point in time. If we're going to Dennis Rodman for conversations, I think we're probably going to the wrong people here. If I want to know what the North Korean dictator is up to, I might ask Dennis Rodman. If I want to know about anything going on in basketball right now, I'm going to go ahead and skip out on Dennis Rodman's opinion. But yes, if we're going to the inside the NBA guys for opinions on basketball, we've lost the plot. Final game. Denver Nuggets. San Antonio Spurs. 5.5-point dogs in Milwaukee. 222 total. Spurs. No Jeremy Sohan. Otherwise, everybody's available. We've got Castle at 15% ownership. Single digits to everybody else. I'd argue Wemby looks about right at 5% owned. I think Vassell looks fine. I think Harrison Barnes at 3,800 with no Jeremy Sohan might just be the most under-owned guy on the slate. 3,800, small forward, power forward eligible. He's played north of 30 minutes in at least 4 of his last 5, and one of those games, nobody did it. And there's no Jeremy Sohan today? The Barnacle of the Bay deserves to be more than 2% owned here. You need 30 fantasy points out of him. That is well within the cards here. Do I want to get to a little bit of Chris Paul if he's 1% owned? Sure do. Keldon Johnson, Champagne, Castle, you could roll those dice as well. San Antonio's a little sneaky. They're not getting any ownership, and nobody stands out. But get yourself the Barnacle of the Bay, guys. Get yourself the Barnacle of the Bay. My preferred value pivot of the day today. Get yourself some Barnacle, everybody. Who wouldn't want the Barnacle? I know I do. But yeah, Wemby looks fine. Look, we got to compare Wemby to potentially Jokic and Giannis on the opposite side. Yeah, Vassell looks good. Chris Paul looks good. They all kind of look okay. They're not getting any love. For Milwaukee, they're really not getting any love. 9% ownership to Giannis, 2% to Middleton, 0 to anybody else. Giannis, Andre Jackson, and Middleton, all probable. I think Giannis is the guy that you want here. I don't want Dame. I don't want Middleton. I don't want Lopez, Portis, Trent. I don't want anything from Milwaukee other than Giannis. I don't see it. Like, how do you go to Dame when you have Tyrese Maxey on this slate? Or, Cade Cunningham running the show on his own team. Potentially Jalen Brunson with no cat today. SGA, just in general. One of the backcourt guys from Cleveland. Levine, White, maybe Halliburton. I don't want any Dame. I only want Giannis. Pay-up wise, though, I think the best pay-up option on today's slate is in the first game in the hardest spot. And I think that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Giannis was upset he didn't get a Christmas Day game. NBA replaced him with Wemby for Narrative Street, guys. I think they replaced him with Wemby because he's better than Giannis now? How can you discredit NBA champions, millionaires, and people that have laced up both people? That's insane. Because I've watched all these people that were in the NBA be terrible at evaluating talent. Israel, do you think Michael Jordan was good at evaluating talent and owning a basketball team? Because that's your best player in your mind, and he's the worst owner in the history of the game in terms of putting together a winning product. He couldn't have been a worse guy at making his own team be good. No. I don't care at all about the people that guarded them. Not in the slightest. It's Curd. Have you ever won first for 100K? Technically, no. My max was 88,000. Couple 50Ks in there. But 88 is the most. I think it was 88. Somewhere in that 88, 87, 88 range. Well, that was a fun 8 games, folks. Don't be afraid to hit that like button. That will help me out a ton. Deeper dive later today. Live before lock later tonight. Greg and I on playback. We're going to have 3 games at 7, 2 at 7:30, and an 8 o'clock start. So 6 of the 8 games will be able to be talked about on playback. Jake, when I say worst owner, I don't mean, I'm not counting personality. Definitely not a great dude. Not that Michael Jordan's some great dude, but I am simply judging this ownership group based on product on the court and nothing else. But guys, this was fun. Hump day in the books. I will see you guys for the deeper dive later today. Make sure you're watching all of our stuff. Another fun one, guys. I love it. And we're back here tomorrow, and we're back here on Friday. We're not going anywhere. Enjoy yourselves. Go watch The Contenders. It'll be out in 45 minutes.